Hey everybody, welcome back to Swing Trading. Mike Fairborn here. Hope you're having a good day and a good day in the markets. I'm joined in the chat by a good friend, colleague of mine, Barb Armstrong. It's great to have you all on board. Hello to you, Josh. We've got Moxie. We've got Tony, Kenneth Lopez. We've got Ocean Life. Beth, good afternoon to all of you. That's everybody that I can see here in the chat. But welcome to all of you folks today. I wanted to reference what a lot of traders will term as a smart money indicator in line with swing trades. It's a volume-based indicator, but it's showing indications of strength. And in many cases, volume, if it is strong, buying volume can precede price action, which makes it all the more interesting when we're dealing with swing trades. Because if you can see prices, if you can see volume, actually buy volume start to break out, more buyers coming in, sometimes that can influence the bottom of those flags and prices can move. So we're going to dive on into that. But welcome to all of you. And yeah, we'll review prior trades from last week as well. But first off, moving on to some disclosures. Information here is for general information purposes only. Options do carry a high level of risk. They're not suitable for all investors. Now, spread trading must be done in a margin account. Multiple leg options will involve multiple transaction costs. Short options can be assigned at any time up to expiration, regardless of the in-the-money amount. Now, an ITM option does have a higher risk of being assigned early as well. The paper money software application is for educational purposes only. Investing does involve risk, including loss of principal. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Now, just moving on down into, just as a quick overview, we'll do this from time to time, every few times as we present in this class. Let's look at the bull flag right now. Pretty much indicative in many cases. Sometimes these price patterns can give us a really good sense of the swing that we're looking for, the swing trade. These are the movements within the market. That is the swing itself. The swing trade is defined oftentimes by traders as being a 3 to 10 day move. 3 to 10 days, and a lot of times they will be tied into a price pattern. Here's a flag pattern. We'll look at some of the flag patterns today. I've actually been seeing too, and I've noticed many of you in the chats that I've covered as well. But I've noticed that we've seen a little bit of this pattern out there as well. The inverted head and shoulders pattern. Sometimes that will continue on up as well, and that can be also a 3 to 10 day move. But we're really just trying to capture the follow-through run, which really, at the end of the day, is part of a longer-term trend, perhaps. We've got an upward trend that's in place. We folks are just interested in these moves here. Really, that's the swing trade. Now, we will look at options sometimes. Last week, we did an option, a long call, and we compared that with the stock. We're going to look at that one today. We are still in that trade. It's gone up moderately, but we'll take a look at that. So that is the bull flag, and of course, there is the bear flag. As you can see, the flag pattern here, just the flag flipped upside down, and really looking for that 3 to 10 day follow through over here. Okay, I do still want to take a look at the S&P 500 index just to kind of see where we're at right now. I did send an X post out today. An X post, many of us know those as tweets, in terms of what Scott Bessent has said specifically, saying that they are in negotiations with 17 of 18 key trading partners. And so when you think of key trading partners, think in terms of big nations. And those could be announced as early as this week. Now, we've heard that for a while now, and I think the market has given some goodwill to that. In other words, we've seen a move up here without any of the actual signings coming in. There has been some negotiations with China. They've dropped some of their tariffs down, and behind the scenes, maybe to save a little face, they've taken off some of the tariffs that they had on our products, which makes it better for us. It just levels the playing field, basically. But we had the zigzag move up here to a very interesting couple of resistance levels. I'm tying this back in to what Scott Bessent said in terms of where are we at in getting the actual signings, the negotiations of the tariffs? So 17 of 18 partners, they are negotiating. But folks, you might need to get that news. We might need to see something more here than just the discussion of it in order for prices to continue to trend on up. because we are really, really super news driven right now. And this is a big resistance level, but it was cool that we did close above the 61.8. But I just think that news can have a lot to do with this trend continuing on higher or not. All right. So there we go. Hello to you, Riceberg, Will, and others joining us that we've got here in the chat. Everybody. All right. Hello to you, Jerry. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the S&P, or excuse me, the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq had a stronger rebound, and believe it or not, off the bottom here, we had a pretty good move, just percentage-wise, grabbing one of the tools here on the chart. And this is actually, I am cherry picking it a little bit. I'm actually using the actual bottom to the actual top. That was a 22% gain there. But do you see how that inverted head and shoulders pattern could be starting to develop even on the NDX? And when the NDX is doing it, there could be about, I don't know if it's exactly 100, they call it the 100. It varies, but there might be approximately 100 companies that could have similar type patterns. This would be the potential pattern. Shoulder, head, shoulder. Inverse of the regular head and shoulders pattern, which is not inverted, right? It's just like something like this. Now, you don't get an indication, you don't get a signal until you take out, it's a slightly sloping downward neckline is what they refer to it as. It is a trend line, but within this pattern, it's specifically called a neckline. We won't get a confirmation that it's beginning or that it could unfold until you actually take out that pattern. Now that would be interesting because if the NASDAQ does this, it could be, an interesting kind of a setup. But as we're waiting for these trade negotiations to unfold and just kind of linking this together a little bit with the news that's out there, do you think we might see a pullback maybe down towards that level? That's the question. We don't know, but it could be something we could keep in mind for the possibility of a test and a break. But like I said, that's some pretty decent resistance there. And we'd have to take that out right at, gosh, that's right at 20,000, isn't it? Yeah, it's a 20,000 number. So we're going to want to keep eyes on that. A lot of companies could be there. We're above the 50 RSI, and a lot of times that's seen as, a bit of a strength indicator too, as you're above that level. We did break up above it, and sometimes too, I did a class on this. In fact, I did a ThinkScript class on this, where we created a ThinkScript, but a lot of times that RSI, if that move is going to continue to the upside, keep this in mind, it should at least hold the 40 RSI. If it starts to break below the 40, a lot of traders will say it's more of an indication that will break lower. So if you're pulling back here, we should at least hold that 40 RSI right there. So it's going to be kind of fun to watch and see what does unfold, but that can actually create additional indications for us to look at. All right. Well, welcome to all of you just joining us here. Let's take a look at our prior week's trades. It's kind of nice because within this class, we've basically got 1 to 2 weeks of looking back before we're out. It's within that 3 to 10 day time frame. This was Kroger. You can see that Kroger did go up a little bit. Do you guys remember one of the discussions we had last week about one of the potential scenarios? I'll pull this down here too a little bit. One of the scenarios we talked about with Kroger when we got into it, we got a series of flag patterns in here, and I've marked specifically just so we can kind of visually see those time frames. That was a 10-day move off the bottom. You had a 4, a 9, and a 9. We were looking for another move in here. We're clearly within that time frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days right now. We're currently at. But notice one of the scenarios. Does anybody remember talking about this? Or our discussion on this is that what happens if we come up here and we just start to sort of drag a little bit right towards the T1 target level. T1 being the prior high of this flag pattern. So here is the ultimate flag we're looking for. Let me clear out some lines. So the ultimate flag, and this is where our target is at up top, right there. There it is. Okay, that is the flag pattern. I'll put it in yellow so we can maybe see a little bit more clearly. But that was the flag we looked at right there, measuring the flagpole here up a little bit higher and saying, can we get here? One of the risks we talked about that is that it might come up towards the T1 and sort of round over, because that ultimately, the T1 is a resistance level, and that's why it is the first target. Target 1, this up top would be target 2. We talked about this, and we also said that, well, if volume gets weaker here, sometimes that could be another indication. So we actually have now a decision that we have to make. Do we take the trade off the table, take some of the profits off the table? What do we do at this point? We mentioned last week that if we start to kind of flatten out, the 10-day moving average is going to come up and join, and it could be an interesting level to help us in terms of a consideration of an exit area. Well, let's go ahead and just pull that up right now, and I'm going to throw the 10 period on here as an idea for an exit, but we might want to take, this is just an idea, we'd kind of mentioned a little bit we did mention a little bit last week, and that is, what do we do if we decide to take a little bit off the table here? We've got 100 shares here. If we took off half off the table, it could do a few things for us. I'm going to really zoom in now. Doesn't look great. I'll pull this back up so you can kind of see those a little bit better, and I'll zoom this, push this down. Okay. So you notice up top, oh, one last thing. Money flow. We'll tap into that in just a second, but money flow is going a little bit sideways here. Higher lows on money flow, but we haven't broken out yet. So it's really kind of holding back some close right now as to what could happen. It could be in line with a breakout. Consumer staples might not be as strong in the market as it relates to some of the technology stocks. We looked at the NASDAQ. It could bump up here if the NASDAQ pulls down some of the technology stocks. Consumer staples has kind of been moving inversely to a lot of those stronger stocks that tend to be stronger in the economy. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But you can see where an exit could be. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the stop here in just a second. But before I do that, why don't we just show, as an example, we'll take half off the table at T1 because of the signs it's giving us. The flattening out at resistance, the weak volume, and it is weak. I mean, we're hardly getting any volume today. What else can you see on the chart here? Guys, see anything? How about the potential doji today, which can kind of be a battle between the doji candle, it can sort of be the battle between the bulls and the bears, right? You get, we fought earlier in the day, the bulls were taking over, the bears came in towards the end of the day, but we kind of finished off towards this end of the day. We're not done yet. There's still 45 minutes left in the day. But yeah, the candle can influence that because, folks, it's not just a candle pattern. It's a candle pattern happening at resistance after the slope of this trend has been flattening out. We were kind of anticipating that maybe we could get kind of a sharp break higher, like we saw over here. And we paused a little bit. We just broke out. We still might do that, but we're dragging. So let's just do this. I'm going to go ahead and just say, let's take of this KR. We'll take half off the table for now. So we'll just put this down here for now. And I'm going to take, oh, gosh, there we go. Right there on the bid side. Okay. So I'll pull this down. We'll go ahead and just sell 50 of the 100. And here we go. So confirm and send. We'll sell that right where we're at right now. Okay. And then what that's going to do is we're still going to have 100 that we're going to have to adjust up top on the chart because we've got 100 in terms of a potential target, 100 in terms of a potential exit in the form of the stop. What I'm going to do is change these numbers right now, but in order to do that, I'm going to cancel and replace order. I just right-clicked on it. So a cool thing is you can do it right off the chart. I don't need to keep going back to the trade tab to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it GTC, but because we don't have 100 shares anymore, we've only got 50, took half off at the target. We're going to go confirm and send there. We've changed that to 50. Right-click on the stop, cancel replace order. We do everything right off of the chart here. And we'll go minus 50, tab through, and everything remains the same, good till cancel. But what we want to do now is we want to grab that 50 stop. I'm going to pull this right up to, or just below, the 10-period moving average, which is actually kind of in an interesting place too, because it does put the potential exit level just below the prior day's low. But we can keep tightening that up too. If we keep getting tighter and tighter at this level, oftentimes it's either going to break out or in fact, it's going to break back down again. So that's kind of an interesting thing as well. Now, that is one of the targets we use, and it is at resistance. It's not a bad thing to put necessarily to take our paper profits at resistance here. But let me just throw one other thing out here too. If we begin to just break out with strength right here, folks, is there anything in the world aside from the market not being open this is preventing us from adding those 50 shares back in? If we really had a lot of belief in Kroger, maybe there's some news or something, we could still, at the end of the day, we could still add back in our 50 shares. Now, that's something traders will do because the setup might be there for a potential follow through, and they just might want to get back in. And it's not unusual to take some profits off at resistance and then add them back in if it does start to break out. So that can be done as well. All right. Yeah, Tatiana, on chart screen. So I made those adjustments, if that's what you might be referencing here, to this was an OCO bracket order, our target and our stop. I'm right clicking. I'm using the right click and left click quite a bit, but then you go right there. There was a cancel in there to cancel everything, but that is how we do it. Now remember too, I wanted to show you how we had done on this as well. We got in approximately here, and we were up on this trade about $200 because it's up about 2 points. But how are we doing on the option itself? Because remember, we wanted to do an example. We went long along a call contract too. How are we doing on that one? Let's go to the trade tab. We chose a shorter term option because it was only out about the time frame that we had looked at. In terms of 3 to 10 days, we added about 10 days to that. We went out about it it was just under a 20-day time frame. But how are we doing on that trade? Right now, let's just see our order. We're up about 88.50. So the stock itself made about close to $200. The contract here, I should have looked at it before. I took half of it off the table already. But by comparison, this is going to give you a general sense on these swing trades, and let's look at it specifically. 88.50, so real close to $90 approximately. We had a rally that came up over a week's time frame, and it didn't do a lot. It went to a T1 target, which we were actually fairly close to, and we just went kind of sideways here. If we're playing options, that means time decay, and the time decay is about $3 a day. That is 7 days a week, including holidays. Okay, so that's been eating away at our profits. And it will continue to do so, but we are in the money here. How much do we have left on this trade? If this, in terms of like intrinsic value, if this thing were just to stay at this level this whole time, what's that option actually worth? I'm just going to click just to the right of the option, pull it on down, and there it is, intrinsic, extrinsic value. This is all part of everybody's platform, so you can see that there. But this trade would be worth the intrinsic value. Extrinsic is about 31 cents in time value. Extrinsic just below $3, but about $2.91. Now, what did we pick this up for? We bought it at $2.34. The question is this: do we take the money and run, or do we not on the option at a T1 level? Take the money, question mark. I just sent through a poll. If you guys are able to just click on that, what do you think for an option? Keep this all in mind. We've already burned out a fair number of days. There are only 10 days left. We stand to lose about 31 cents if, and that's if, that's a big if prices can hold hit resistance for 10 days. It could also pull back too. Do you feel comfortable with that? I'm getting a yes. I don't know how many I've got in there, but it's a decision we want to consider. But this additional option gives us a way to kind of control risk to a degree, right? There's only a certain amount we can lose on those long options. It's the amount of the debit itself, what we paid for. And what we paid for that was $234. We're at 84, 82. It's dropping. Maybe if I just kept it on, it would, yeah, would go all the way down to the other direction. But 82% says yes. That's enough time on the poll. I'm just going to leave it there. So I think we'll get poll results. There we go, 22 votes. Thanks to those of you who voted for us. But there we go. Let's go ahead and take that off the table. We'll just do it very democratically here, and we'll take it off. But I think that could make a lot of sense due to the fact that it is at resistance. The volume is down. Remember, we can lose our gains that we've made. You know, the time decay as well. There's only 10 days left. So I'm going to just try to shove the order here, create closing order. There we go. We'll send this on through 315 and we'll go like that. There you go. Okay. So we've got a little bit out there. We got that in place and we're good to go. Okay. Oh, okay. So the key point, notice this red area here. Let's go back to our area. We'll go ahead and cancel that out. Okay, so good. So that was our exit level that we had as well. All right, so there we go. That's what we've decided to do on this one. The next one, CCEP. Okay, so a couple of things going on with CCEP. Now, it too is right at resistance. We have 100 shares here. I'm going to look at this now so we can keep tabs on it. So this one's up also about 200 PL open. It's only gone up a couple $100. I was really hoping that we would have a nice spike up to some of these ranges, but the market's been a little bit tricky. So this is interesting as well. Notice where we're at. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. I would call that resistance, and we're holding that resistance. But at the same time, here we are. We've got an interesting price pattern. And these price patterns are very interesting. They don't have to hold, but there you go. Look at that right there. Folks, an ascending triangle. Oftentimes, folks, these will break out in the direction of the trend right there. The direction of the trend. Now, will that happen? I got to put a question mark because we don't know. But remember, we talked about this last week, and the full sort of a move in terms of our target, that would be the T2, is right there. Now, we could still take the couple hundred off the table. It's only 100 shares here, but there's a little bit of a price pattern in there. So I've got to send out another poll on this one to see what you guys think. We could still do a little money management as well, but I'm just going to say in this case, take the money, question mark again, on CCEP. It's a good position to be in. Are we going to take the money or not? But we will see. How are we doing over here on our money flow, which is going to really represent the rest of our discussion here? We went a little bit flat, and we didn't break out yet. But if we did break out, that could be interesting. That's going to be our new trades for this week as our smart money indicator. But there you go. So that's kind of an idea on what we take a look at. Do we take it or no? Okay. This is interesting too because it is the Euro-Pacific region of Coca-Cola, which I think had been lagging Coca-Cola a little bit. So maybe there might be a little bit of a push here as well. Okay, I'm saying no. So what we'll do is we'll just stick with it and we'll just keep it rolling. We do not take the money on this one. Okay, cool. All right. Very good. The other one that I did get, we got back into, this was tricky because it broke down on DLTR, but then it began to break right back up again. So the short-term risk, we got knocked out of this short-term, but when we got another close above the high, the low day, added to it, and here we go. So we're still basically in this trade. Well, I jumped back into it. We'll see if this does unfold, but you can see clearly here, and let's do this. Let's just put a line as opposed to all those fib levels, but I'm going to draw a line right up here. Right up just above that 100, but that's a 100 retracement. We'll remove that. That could be the price target. And we talked about these not being as affected by tariffs. That would be your T1 target, just about 100. That 100 also had a little bit of resistance over here, but that dollar tree off the bottom, since they got rid of, I think, Dollar General, that acquisition, has still been holding up fairly nicely. This too, though, is sitting kind of at a resistance point. Yeah, so that one's up a little bit more, about $300 but in our paper, these are all just paper trades, but it too is at resistance. Okay, well, I've got to move on to the other stuff because we got to see some new things that are going on. New trade this week. This held up a little bit better than AT&T. I know we looked at AT&T previously, folks, but what I wanted to do today was look specifically at the smart money indicator. Oh, it's termed that way by a lot of traders, investors. It's one that I think is unique. It's unique because it does use volume as an indication, and it tries to net out buyers relative to sellers. Now, to move the money flow, oftentimes you're going to have some big institutional buying coming in, and it doesn't line up perfectly with volume over here. Notice over here, we've been kind of in a sideways range recently with Verizon, but look what's happened. I mean, we've actually, we've been sideways here, but volume really dipped. Look at the money flow. It gives a totally different picture. It says in total, accumulation has been up. Buying in general has been up. And if we look broadly at this, we traded this one time previously. I've got to take this stop off. I'm sorry, that was sitting out there. But yeah, there's a longer term trend. And we've kind of come down a little bit. Now, within this, there has been a little bit of a flag pattern forming. If you can see it right there, it's small. I realize that. And we're already at the T1 level, but we're taking out that higher, at least right now. We don't know if we'll close above it or not. It's certainly a close above the high of the low day as it stands right now. I can't say it's a close yet, but there you have it. And is this positioned for a move up? And if so, could it also trigger a broader move over here as well? Because I'm just going to step back and just show you that this is kind of a longer term flag pattern itself. A longer term pennant. It's not the most beautiful flag pattern I've seen out there. It's been some sharp dips, but it also has a triangle pattern coming down here. And we just broke above the top of that trend line. Even if I'm drawing this off the bottom right there, we did take this out. Okay. A couple of days ago, 2-3 days ago, we actually broke above that level. And sometimes when you break above the triangle, that's when the move starts to get going. So there's a pattern behind here, but the key thing is that the buying, I think the thing that really stands out the most, and it may not unfold this way, but that is at highs, and we're not at highs. And what the money flow indicator can help us with is it can say that at this point here, or at least the closing price, notice I'm choosing these higher levels, we should at least reach this range according to money flow. We should at least reach this general range. A lot of times it is a range, 46.5, 46.5 to greater than 47, up in that area for a potential target. And that fulfills a triangle pattern breakout target, okay? Because on the triangle breakout, you take the biggest move within the formation of the triangle. I'm actually going to take this move as well. It's a little bit less. That moved up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and you put it at the end of the breakout here, and you can count it up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, which is giving us a target level over here too. So we might get a triangle breakout. There might be a longer term potential flag pattern breakout here as well, putting us closer to the 46 level. Couple of different price patterns setting up for a breakout, and we're getting signs right now with that money flow smart money indication there that we're taking that we could take that level out. If we compare this high on this breakout to where the smart money indicator was down here, the money flow, we're already well above that level, meaning that it took less cumulative volume to get us to a higher point than we already have right now. And with the triangle too, just last thing, is you get into this sort of coiling motion. You coil, 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 and then sometimes what you'll do is you'll break out above it as well. Okay, and so it's that explosion and the expansion of the range can unfold too. So let's just see what happens here. But I'm going to go ahead and we'll set up a trade right now on it. Because we already hit the T1 target, I'm going to use a potential exit right around, it's actually just right below, setting up in a very interesting spot. It's right below the bottom of this mini flag. These lows here, you can see that's where our 10-period moving average is. So I'm just going to put a potential, exit here in the form of a stop. And then our target, I'm going to choose the mid 46 level, which actually puts us right at this close. And that was one of the minimum target levels right there. Okay, to a prior high. According to the money flow, we should reach to the high point, or at least here. It could be higher, but we'll see if that works out with this pattern set up for this swing trade. Okay, so let's go ahead and set it up as a good till, an OCO bracket order. Buy custom with OCO bracket. And I'll just set this up a little bit higher and a little bit lower. That actually is going to be fine because I generally will make the adjustments right off the chart. We'll go ahead and just do 100 shares here. We'll go ahead and click on good till cancel here on each of these. Let's confirm, send it, take a look at it. See what we've got. Always confirm that order. The buying power effect for that 100 shares fits us in at 2,200 range. I'm going to go ahead and send this in right now. We'll look at the chart. Once that gets confirmed, let's go ahead and pull up our target, our limit up top to about the 46.50. Actually, I'm just pointing right to, send it right to that closing price up top here. And our stop ended up actually in a pretty good area already, but I'm going to give it a little bit of play just right below our 10 period for now, 10 period moving average. Okay, now the nice thing about the potential exit level on the stop is that we can adjust that higher with the 10-period moving average. In other words, as prices make maybe some movement, a move up towards that 46, we can adjust the level on up with it too. Okay, we can keep raising that stop just below that 10-period moving average. The one thing I wanted to say, last thing on this, is that sometimes, now in this class it is a swing trade, but in some cases what we can do is, some traders out there might say, I'm good with a little bit longer term move as well. And if we were to get a move like this to unfold, let me just draw it out, bigger picture. See this kind of bigger flag pattern after the pennant? That could be a much bigger move. That could come up and even test like the 50 level. So you could kind of play it by ear. How might a trader do that? Well, let me give you some ideas. What if we make good, solid progress, folks? We rally up. Let's get a screen up here. We rally up to this point pretty sharply up to our target. But because it's been so strong, we could rely back on the 10-period moving average as an exit level. I'll draw that as a solid line if it goes against us. So as prices have gone up here, some people will say, you know what, Mike, I don't like this exit level. I think it can run up a few more points. So what they'll do is they'll take this off, and what they'll do is they'll just use this sort of stop level as an exit and just let it run with the trend, and maybe they'll just adjust this target up here to close to 50 or something. Does that make sense? Things can vary based on strength. What kind of caught my attention on that is when this stock gets going, sometimes it gets going. Look at the last time it ran. Off this bottom when we started to get going, pretty solid move. Look at the next one. There's a few days in there. Look at the next one. There's 3 in a row. Pretty good price movement. That could set us up into this level. Okay? If I went back further, you'd see even more right here, right there. Like this move. I mean, sometimes it can be pretty explosive when it gets going. Okay, yeah, T-Mobile, some of these were in. We looked at T before. I think we traded T for a little bit. T starting to move. I think it could be good for the entire group if you started to see a big run up here. T-Mobile actually has pretty good volume below, AT&T, T-Mobile. Yeah, a little bit of a breakdown here on, looks like an earnings announcement. Did they beat earnings? They actually beat earnings. I'm not sure what the guidance was. It just moved above the 10-period moving average right now. The one thing it doesn't have that Verizon did have or does have currently is that it doesn't have that trend line break. We're a little ways away from it, but there could also be a bigger flag pattern developing there. That could be actually a laggard in the group. I mean, it could pick up speed. A couple others in here. Here is KDP. Look at the smart money indicator over here. It's been holding at a support level, trend up, higher highs, higher lows, and actually higher low, higher low, higher low. A pretty good staircase move up in terms of higher lows. And right now we're resting at a really long-term level of, I would say, maybe even more more support at that level. Support, not resistance. It was resistance over here. Let's just pull up the Fibonacci because it does look like it could be a 50% fib. Closing price to closing price is down here. Ooh, yeah, we're very, very close to the 50% as well. So what some traders will look for is if you can break below the 50 and then start to trade back up above it, it can signal this move in terms of a possible flag pattern extending higher. Okay. But look down here at the early indication, because what is that showing us in terms of the smart money? There may have been some buyers coming in here. Remember, you will not get this volume to add up unless you can close higher on the trading day. So if you close higher than the previous day, it takes that close. If it's up and it adds all this volume right down here to the money flow. If you close lower, it takes all that volume, even if it was a big spike, and it subtracts it. But this too has been kind of moving up. It's in the consumer staple group as well. It's a non-discretionary, right? In the beverages area, but this could be one. We don't have a signal yet on this, but it could be an interesting one to watch. Maybe the 10-period moving average break above. Watch this. I'm going to right click on that 10-period moving average. I'm going to, oh, you know what? We can't. No, I'm in the demo. If one will allow me on the demo account, there's still a way to set up a trade on that. Instead, let's do this, or an alert. I'm going to click right here on our trend line and draw a trend line coming off the top right there. Maybe an interesting indication of a change in trend. We could also have one coming off the tops here to give us an early warning and early warning indication that it might be breaking out. Now I'm going to come down here, left click, create drawing from alert, and it's going to tell us, it's going to signal for us if it crosses above that trend line, and it can text us that information. So I'm just going to put down here trend line break, question mark right there, create. So I'll put the trade on this week if I can get that notification. Again, you can set those up top here under setup, application settings, and notifications. You can put in your an email address so it emails you or it texts you either way. Okay, but let's put one more trade on today. Here's NEM coming out of a base right here. There have been a number of analysts. We'll see if they're right. But they said, hey, in terms of gold going higher, here's kind of a gold XAU. XAU? Yeah, this is the silver and gold index. This is silver as well. But they said, you know, gold has really outpaced silver. Gold has outpaced not only silver, but some of the gold miners. So a lot of analysts out there are saying, hey, now's the time to look at the miners. Here's a miner, Newmont Mining. You can see the flag pattern there. This is one we've looked at, traded before. This is the flag pattern. You can see it was a bigger flag right here. I'm going to extend this up. I'm going to activate that drawing and just draw it up to the top here. Activate, try to grab it. There we go. So to that high, approximately, where would this target be long term? We know where the short term target's going to be. It's at the prior highs. But if I click on this, right click, then left click duplicate, I can pull it up off this bottom and show you about 65 if it continues to unfold. I do want to put a trade on this because we did just get above the 10-period moving average. We did get a close above the high of the low day yesterday. We'll zoom that back in. In fact, let's just go to a 6-month chart to see it a little bit better. We got to close above the high of the low day yesterday. That was the high bar. We didn't quite do it the prior day, but we also got a trend line break coming through right there. Now, what's been holding up? Smart money indicator. Is it moving higher? Yes. Is it broken out? No. It hasn't gone up yet, but you can see it too has been making higher highs and higher lows with the trend. And a really interesting bounce right there. Okay, so that's the question mark. And we continue on up there. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. Will volume start to come in, which sometimes it'll do when the flag is coming up, because price action tends to attract a lot of it tends to attract traders buying or selling. In this case, it might be, we'll see, but I mean, prices could be going up. People might recognize this as a flag pattern. Let's go ahead and put this in right now. I could put in a longer term target up here right around 65. And what we can do is actually put a very, very tight stop on it, either below the 10-period moving average or below, you want a little bit of flexibility here, below the low of the prior day. I'll keep it tight for now. Let's do this. So trade tab, right click, buy custom OCO bracket. We'll go ahead and confirm, see what our order shows us, and send a roo. There we go. Let's go ahead and pull these up. We should get a indication here in just a sec. Let's go back. I think I need to click this so we can see it. There we go. Yeah. So I'll pull this down a little bit and then we'll adjust the target. Can I? No, still nothing. Okay. It gets a little crazy when you start to adjust it manually. So you got to kind of adjust it up a little bit, send it through, pull it down, and do it again to create a separation. So the limit, that right there, is our potential target level. I'll put it right just around 65. And our stop, we're going to keep this very, very tight, just below that 10-period moving average break. So again, coming back to risk and potential reward, risking very little, but leaving a big move up to the upside. So that we look at the risk and reward kind of components here. The risk is actually very, very small relative to the reward. If, in fact, that stop triggers, we talked about that for a second, but the stop itself, how does that set up relative to the target up here? Now, one thing I didn't do today, I didn't get a chance to do, was to kind of put on also an option to look at, like just a long call option. But that's something you could also consider. We'll do that more in the future, but I do like the side-by-side comparison. As a matter of fact, if one of these were to work out, that option could do well, especially if it goes quite fast to the upside. So just some considerations in there, folks, but hopefully you found this informative and useful. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. There is a survey in there. Thank you, Barb. There is a survey. She's been very great about putting that in and putting in the swing trade archives. Thank you so much, Barb. We've got a lot of content in there. We've looked at different indicators to kind of help us. Today it was that quote unquote smart money indicator in terms of the money flow and some of the breakouts that we saw there. Oh, real quick, last one, just to kind of show you, GD, General Dynamics, it too has been showing some pretty good building. Look at the money flow over here, really strong, but then we've just seen very little, but it's been noticed. Possibly that buying pressure has been keeping prices flat here, and it could be one that maybe starts to move. That's one that could be kept an eye on as well, based upon maybe an early warning sign from the money flow there, showing some strength as well. But with that, folks, it's been fun. Thank you so much, Barb, for being here and all your help, folks. Great to have all of you on board. Appreciate the discussions back and forth. Hey, I'll see you all next time. Take care, all.